Don't say any F's and stuff.
Let's go! Blazing the steel. Bring the heat. Mixing non-stop with the hottest DJ.
I'm your host, Joshua Diaz.
Non-stop.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
There is not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and where
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has...
is not, really? It is to me. Right, idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, it's real tough.
But I have to put her on the side and where with the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy has...
There is not, really? It is to me.
What's
But I
up?
have to put her on the side and where with the boys.
What's up?
But I have to...
Good to see everybody.
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and where about the boys.
Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. Thank you so much for being here. We have a special show for you tonight, a friend of the show, as always, and very excited for him to be here, as usual. And let's just waste no time. Chris McDonough of the Interview Room. You might know Chris from his appearances on Oprah, Nancy Grace, News Nation with Angela Banfield, Sesame Street. Let's see. Did a couple episodes of South Park and maybe even Family Guy. I don't know, but he is the man in the Airstream. How are you, Chris?
Josh, Merry Christmas to you and all the lab rats. And thank you so much for the invite. It was a special treat, to have the opportunity to come here and catch up with you. How you've been?
I've been good. And I know that you've been busy and you're a busy guy. So I appreciate you just taking the time and making it for us here at the lab. Like I said, it's always a blast and it's good to see you. And your shows get better and better. You have amazing guests. You have just an amazing audience. And it's just, I love, like I said, I watched your show the other day. And Francine, is that her name?
Yeah, she's, there's some really smart people, and Francine's just top shelf.
She really is. That show was something really incredible. And
when you have a DNA technique named after you, because you invented it, there's something there.
Yeah. You're something. Yeah. Bardol. That's what it is. And
yep, the Bardol method.
Very, very, very cool, man. And, but
so
yeah,
how's your family been? How's your family been?
We're good.
Your cousin Brett, is he still in the hall down there at San Diego State?
Brett's down the hall at San Diego State, minoring in science and majoring in finance.
Right. Right. But he's not a scientist, right? In any way.
No, he's not a scientist. He's not good at either one of them either. Like he's got, I used to really, root for him, but he's turned out to be quite a loser over the years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, people are like that sometimes. You have to just be patient with them. And
yeah, San Diego State, and I've really, he's just too old to be acting the way that he acts, and things like that. So,
well, he'll learn. He'll catch up. So, what about your dogs? How's Otis and everybody doing?
Otis is fine. He seems to be getting ornerier by the day.
Yeah.
Macho is fine. He seems to get lazier by the day, and so on and so forth. But everybody's good over here. It's a little chilly, but not as chilly as where you are.
Yeah, it's cold.
And what about you? Have you been doing well? Are you still up in Idaho on assignment with the Cold Case Foundation?
I am. I've been embedded with an agency up here for the last 3 months, helping them on an investigation. And so, yeah, we're still making great progress, but you can't talk about it, but you know how that goes.
No, yeah. The weird thing was, let's just really get into it here. I knew that you were coming on, so the library is reopened, and I went to the library. I don't know if I've ever told you about my library trips.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I live, man.
Hey, by the way, I passed a corn dog trailer recently that was off the hook.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't buy one. I just thought of you when I drove by.
Did you smell it?
Well, I thought you had bought a franchise or something, and I figured, you know what, I need to stop on the way back.
Right.
And so, anyway, go ahead, finish.
Well, no, I very much plan on doing that eventually. But anyway, I went to the library because I was like, I haven't heard much from Chris. I mean, here and there, but and I'm going, this is a really weird time of year for everybody. And I was thinking, cause I'm an internet detective. Like that's what I consider myself. I'm just kidding. I'm not really, but
no, but you're good at it.
I at the library, they just have stuff, like they have cool stuff. And so what I did was I was down at the library, and but what got me thinking was I was like, Chris has been kind of, absent around a little bit. He's doing his shows, but I know he's on assignment somewhere. I know he's doing his show. I know he's in an Airstream in an undisclosed location. And then I started going, that sounds a lot like somebody that I have thought about since I was a kid. And
who was that? I mean,
look,
I know I sounded like somebody, but I get that all the time.
Karen, thank God bless her. She sent me a lead. Okay. And then I went to the library. Yeah. You're Karen.
I imagine. Mm-hmm.
And, so I was wondering, it's kind of like he's mysterious, like Santa Claus a little bit.
I didn't have my Spanx on that day. It's obvious. I should have had my tummy tuckers in, and I would have been in a much better place. But I'm glad that she sent that to you, as holiday joy, because I bring a lot of joy, from that photo, even to myself. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but I'm grateful that
you look fantastic. You look fantastic.
The Airstream looks pretty good there. And, when she caught me, I was like, honey, whoa, wait a minute. Let me at least pull my shirt down. She goes, no, you look like Santa.
Exactly.
And I guess, that's a good shot. That's a good picture.
He looked fantastic. So,
thank you.
So then I go, maybe I can find something else out. It looks like what I figured was you were kind of, being Santa, as well, like in your spare time, which you don't have much, But
you see the donut though, right? Do you see the donut back there
I see
on
the donut.
my table?
Is that a hemorrhoid donut?
No, that's just a donut. That's an eating donut. I've been eating that for a year,
Oh,
and
oh.
that's hence the belly. So
So I
anyway,
end
it's
up.
cold in the North Pole.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it looks cold. You can you look a little frosty there, but
A little fluff.
a little fluff. But then I found, so here's the best one. So then I went to the library because I was like, well, this guy's doing something that I don't know about, and I'm gonna figure it out.
Yep.
And I found this selfie that you took of yourself.
Yes. With Buddy. Driving.
Buddy.
You should see him drive. He's crazy. He hit some construction cones about a week ago. And I was like, Bud, whoa, slow down, buddy.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah. I mean, but you look fantastic. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, Bud, when he comes into the trailer with those, antlers, he knocks everything over. It's horrible because he's so low.
Right.
But
well, who decorated the Airstream? Was that you or was that?
Oh no, I had that done.
The elves.
Yeah, the elves. I had a crew that came out and hooked me up. So
because you're literally in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm looking at you.
Yep.
And
I was trying to get up to that castle up on the top of the hill back there. Up in the back. And I was trying to get Buddy to make a left turn, but for some reason, he can only make right turns. We only go in one direction. It's like circles, like Loopy. They call me Loopy. There you go.
I know it's just disrespectful, but
it's good.
I love it.
We love it.
I appreciate I appreciate going to the library. It's always a lot of fun. The one thing that I messed up on is I should have given Buddy a red nose and I didn't. But
that's a great idea. Get the next one. The
next one. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he'll be flying everywhere. But anyway, so let's just
what's on your mind, buddy? What's on your mind?
Man, there's all kinds of things.
What hat are you wearing?
I'm wearing a Los Angeles Lakers.
All right.
Hat. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're a Boston fan.
Well, I'm a Celtics, Red Sox guy, and Padres. I love the Padres.
You couldn't like three worse teams, honestly. Like they're all
they know how to hit the ball and they know how to shoot the ball.
I don't know if they do or not, but they you see, at heart you're an East Coast guy, right?
My parents are from Boston. Yep.
Yeah, you were conceived at the Pentagon.
No, well, I was conceived in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And my dad was in the military 31 years, as you know.
But your parents met at the Pentagon.
They met at the Pentagon.
Gotcha. Wrong story. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, my dad was a linguist. He spoke 5 languages.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was. My brother got it. My sister got it. I got some of it. I can speak Japanese and English, but skoshi this and that. So, because we lived in Japan. We lived in Japan. Yeah, I traveled all over. My brother lived in France for almost 20 years in Toulouse, and Saudi Arabia for 5 years. He speaks, multiple languages, and he's a doctor. Really smart guy, much smarter than me. And then, he's my niece was born in Jeddah, believe it or not. And so, she's an American citizen born in Saudi Arabia. That's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It's especially knowing 5 languages, and you guys are very cultured. About as cultured as I get is going to teppanyaki, type situation. But
we were blessed. The military did us well as a family. We traveled all around the world and landed most of the time when my dad would get transferred to Hawaii, and we lived in Kaneohe and Kailua for quite some time. I went to school there as a youngster.
Wow. Hey, so let's get into what I'll tell you what's on my mind. I listened to Nancy Grace the other day.
Yeah, wasn't she great? She was very hospitable and she's awesome. She was very nice, very nice.
Yes, look, she's been around literally forever, and one of the prominent true crime figures, that she goes way back with this stuff as a prosecutor and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
She knows
it
her
was
stuff.
she does, and it was really nice to see her talking about some of these cases. So she found you through your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, I'd been on her show a long time ago, but her producer called me and said, "Hey, we saw your thing,
Yeah.
about the glove," and that was it. That's how it started. And of course, that kind of, the day it happened, Karen and I, when we were walking up that little road there, and we were looking around, the first thing I was kind of just taking it all in, not getting involved in anything. We were passing there were some people sleeping in the cars, all from media. And when I walked up, the first thing I saw was all the vehicles still in front of the house. And so I started thinking, huh, that's interesting, because it'd been over, that was Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
And, typically, you work a crime scene from the outside in and, not from the inside out. And so, the way I thought it would have been was those cars should have been gone within the first 2 days. You run in, you set a faro. You know what a faro is, right? It's a 3D scanner, and you run, that with all the vehicles there, and then you can pinpoint items outside. Because if you think about it, the suspect didn't start in the house; he had to get into the house. So you process from the outside in, and so when I looked down on the ground, literally right next to the trash can, there was an officer, sitting in his car right there, and Karen was right next to me. And I said, is that a glove?" And she looked over and goes, "Yeah, it looks like a glove." And I said, "I think it's a glove." And yeah, it was. It was a glove. And then I had two thoughts that came to my mind. Oh boy, you know, oh, here come the trolls. Number one, I'm teasing, but the idea of, that being there, I was like, huh, wonder what happened here. And so I pointed it out, told the officer, I said, "Hey, looks like a glove. You probably want to collect it." And his first response to me literally was, "Oh, wow." And he walked over, looked at it and said, "Wow." And then he walked back to his car and I kept on going. I walked right, past him, and you see when I turned back, he comes back from his car, leans over and takes a photograph of it. And he told me that he was, before I walked away, he told me he was going to get hold of the evidence folks and pick it up. That's how the story, that's what happened.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, I was not in the crime scene. I was 1,000% standing right where everybody else was. In fact, there was a guy who did come up who asked permission to take pictures of the house. He said he was from out of state, and he was standing on my left when the officer was talking to me. And the officer said, "Yeah, I don't care." And so, it was no big deal. I thought it was a big deal that it was there. Don't misunderstand me, but we don't know what the deal is with it, right? I mean, I don't know if it's involved. I don't know who it belongs to, if it's been there for 10 years. But then one of the gals from the Cold Case Foundation, one of our analysts, sent me some photographs and said, "Hey, just give you an FYI, a heads up, that glove looks like it appeared there long before you saw it. You can see it in photographs in the early crime scene, a couple of days into it." And so she sent me the photographs. I think it was from Fox News with the glove. You can clearly see it behind the trash cans.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that photo. And, you know, there's always people, naysayers and people that just, you know,
Yeah,
I've
it's okay. It's okay. It really is. It's more about them than it is anything else. And we just keep moving. God
yeah,
knows what the truth is, and you just keep moving. End
that,
of story.
the funny thing is too, and it wasn't like you were way out of your, I mean, you're living, well, I say living, but you're in the state of Idaho. You've been there for a really long time.
About 3 months.
And yeah, it wasn't like you made a special trip like to the state to, I mean, it's just really weird. And like you said, it's more about those people than it is you.
Well,
The
it's
troll.
interesting because how people get on stories, and I'll give you a perfect example. Inside Edition, I guess, did something tonight, and in their talk track, they've got me flying into Idaho.
Nice.
Okay, and I've been in Idaho for 3 months, in an Airstream, but this is just goes to show you, right? As Abraham Lincoln said, don't believe everything you hear on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
Remember that meme going around?
I have seen that.
So
Well, I think this is what Inside Edition was talking about. They saw you traveling,
absolutely.
and
This
you
is
did fly
100%.
in
Yeah.
with Buddy at the helm, and so Inside Edition is only partly wrong. You did fly, but it was in an Airstream, and Buddy was the lead on that.
Yeah, I don't care.
Wow.
I've been shot at 3 times, I've lost a son. We've been through a lot. It's like, okay, so what? People say things. That's up to them, not me.
Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Okay, so, and obviously this is so stupid, but planting evidence at the scene of a crime or fake false evidence, what kind of punishment does that hold?
Prison. A lot.
Right.
Yeah, with my wife.
Right.
Right.
Right. So the troll theory is that you threw it over. It's just so stupid. But
Well, that's where we are as a society, and that's why I always mention, just be kinder to one another. I mean, there's such a vicissitude and this, desire to destroy, and I think if we look back one day, when we do go to look back over this time in history, with the power of social media, with the power of, anybody can say and do anything that they want anonymously, or pretend, and it is literally, I think history is going to show this part of our time as quite destructive. Quite destructive, because if you think about 1933 to 1939, when neighbor was turning on neighbor, okay, and against neighbor just because of who they were and what they were, there was a small group of people, 1/3 of, a society, galvanized around a madman, with that precept that 1/3 can run the world, and they ran it right into World War II, and we just the United States lost almost 500,000 to 600,000 Americans because of an idea. And today ideas run rampant, and they're not checked, they're not verified, they're I can say or do anything that they want. That's the way people feel. And that's very destructive to our society, because our children are going to inherit that, and our grandchildren are going to inherit that society. And we're better than this as Americans. We are. We're the difference between you and me is, there is no difference. God doesn't see in color, and He does not. We all have the same color of blood. It doesn't matter. And so we need to be more kind and respectful to one another. And if not, we're on a collision course. We're on a collision course.
I think we're currently beginning the collision, and I think the course has already ran, because it seems to, just in general, and this goes for every source of media, social media, and you could literally just pick an organization, and And there is so much misinformation. People say things and automatically it's a fact without even looking. That's the one thing I ask people all the time is, look, I'm going to tell you something, but look, go look it up for yourself. Figure it out for yourself. Don't just take the word of the people that are, because that's what people want. Okay. People just sit on their what I would call a bully pulpit. And trust me, if I wanted to have a bully pulpit, I could, and I could do it probably just as well as any bully out there, but it's feckless. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for anybody else. And the entire hatred, I don't have time to hate on other people. And that's why I just say, you know what, they do them, we do us. And I don't care about anybody else. I really don't. Like when it comes to,
Well, you should.
Let me finish, Santa.
Okay,
when it comes to other channels or other people, the way that they run their shows or their lives, that's up to them. What I do is up to me. But the fact is, there are people that just, first of all, there's jealousy. There are people that don't like the fact that there are other people out there that are smarter than them with better resources, that are more likable, and that just have more talent. And I'm not saying who. I'm just kidding. It's actually you. But
you win. Good. I'm glad you win.
No, it's you. It's you.
Well,
it's very
frustrating. A lot of smart people, and that's how you learn. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's how my whole career started, because of a personal situation, as you know, and then it morphed into, December 16th, 1989, a little girl by the name of Leticia Hernandez, as you know, and that morphed into me getting transferred into homicide, crimes of violence, and I ended up staying there, and all of that was, the universe was on schedule. And it's amazing because, I worked a lot of crimes, a lot. And it's interesting. Every one of those victims had parents, right? But, some folks find one incident that I was involved in, which, by the way, wasn't even my agency. Okay. And that's what I'm measured against. Yet I worked over 300 murders. Now think about that. Okay, that's 600, right? That's 600 parents. Okay, times 2. Okay. Yet I'm measured by 2 parents in the world of social, justice, in terms of the thought process. That's the destructive part of where we are today. We can't see the good because there's only the bad to see, i.e., that stuff, right? And that's the problem. And that's why we have job security at the Cold Case Foundation, because people will continue to be destructive without realizing, okay, that they could put that energy to great power by the greatest exercise we'll ever do is lift somebody else up, not tear them down or try. There's been enough of that in the world. I'm not one of those guys. I'm an optimist. I wake up every morning and I decide today is the day I'm going to be, the way I am. And that's just how I am. And I've been that way all my life. And God's given me that gift to compartmentalize all the hate and the trauma out there. There's enough of it. And, people that have never, ever been in those environments, they don't understand. And so I learned very quickly when I started in homicide. My very first case was, I'm not going to give his last name. His first name was Michael. And he wore a red baseball cap. And he was playing with his 3 kids playing baseball at a park called John Landis. And a suspect walked up on him, and literally, while the guy was hitting the ball to his kids, he walked up behind him and he shot him in the back of the head. And I had him in the interview room, the other interview room. That's why I named my channel The Interview Room. And I looked over at him and I said, "Why did you shoot that man?" And he looked at me he didn't even blink. He goes, "I didn't like his hat." That was his rationale. And that was 1990.
Because it was to him, it was a gang related color, but to the person wearing it, it meant nothing other than a hat, correct?
Yes, correct. Exactly. But that was his scope of focus. And, we're narrowing that down where, as people, we see it just viciously in the way other folks are, not being empathetic to somebody else's cause or being, considerate of that. And you learn through sad experience. There's an old saying that through sad experience, it's the nature of disposition of almost all men. As soon as they gain a little authority, they will begin to exercise unrighteous dominion. And that idea is dangerous.
Yeah, and Fime says, Chris, I think empathy has been leaking out of the world. I would somewhat agree with that, although there are some absolute, without being too gloom and doom, there are really amazing humans in this world, and
98% of us are good people. It's that small percentile. Only 4% of the nation commits violent crime. Very small percentage. But, as the news says, if it bleeds, it leads. Okay. And so it becomes, so it's always great to have these platforms, to be level-headed and considerate of our fellow man. I don't have all the answers. I make a lot of mistakes. Ask Karen, ask Buddy, ask my children, ask my colleagues. I've made my share of mistakes in this world.
Buddy wanted a smaller airstream so he didn't have to pull as hard. That was a mistake.
Exactly. Those antlers were getting heavy. And so anyway, that said, I didn't mean to go off into,
not at all. That's what you're here for, Chris. That's what you're here for. And Life is Short says, love to see you guys together. Thank you. Yeah, it's always a treat when you're here, Chris. And we've done quite a few shows together, and all of them, I can't remember a bad one. We always have a great conversation. But one thing that I want to go back to here is, so you said that you work a crime scene, and this is kind of in reference to the Moscow murders. You work a crime scene from the outside in. Can you kind of explain just a little bit what you mean by that? I mean, it sounds self-explanatory, but it's not really.
Yeah. So Homicide 101 is when that call comes in, and this call came in as unconscious male, right? And I think it was 11:59. I have the call. I looked it up. It's online, by the way. Anybody can go see it at the Moscow Police Department blog. And the time of call, unconscious male, paramedics and the PD responded. And so they get there, right? They do their thing. They determine it's a homicide, and they start to shut the scene down. Okay. Well, the first responding vehicle, wherever that vehicle parks and stops, if it's within sight of the scope of that crime scene, that vehicle does not move. Okay. Not that vehicle.
Right. No, I was bringing up the website.
That's all right. That vehicle does not move. And what you want to do is you want to tape off, that area. And if there was a gravel driveway or anything like that, and you want to shut it down as far out as you can. And you can create, one of two scenarios. You can expand your crime scene, but it's easier to expand it from the beginning. And that just comes with experience, unfortunately. Okay. Where you want to shut down as much as you can, because you have to think about what was the suspect what is the, how does this individual approach? Is there a car involved? And if so, what are the options where this vehicle could park? And so you want to make sure that you're covering all those bases. And so the responding officer, that individual's responsibility is to direct the other officers coming into the environment where not to go. Okay. And like in a traffic accident, the first officer on the scene becomes what we call the primary. And that individual gets on the radio and he says, okay, I need, 8th and blah, blah, blah shut down. I need this shut down. I need that shut down. I got 2 injured here. I need the medics up here. Okay. That kind of thing. Right. So that person's he's the driver or she's the driver. Okay. It's the same thing with a homicide. The driver is the responding officer. That officer is going to write the initial crime report. And that officer is also responsible to making sure that the scene is shut down and that investigators are notified. So in theory, when the investigators get there, because usually it's a call out, they can come from various directions, from various places. In theory, that scene has been taped off, shut off, and there's an officer standing there with a crime scene log. Okay. And then what you do at that point is you make sure that everybody is on this side of the tape. Okay. On this, that opposite side of the tape. Okay. And that's where you do what we used to call circle up. Okay. Now, if you needed more room to do that, then you create another barrier and you put another piece of tape up. And then that way, when the media shows up, your PIO goes over there where the media is. And, they're not standing out in front of the crime scene. And so it's a very meticulous process that's taught in the academy, in the police academy. And they learn how, to do that. But over time, you can't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody at the Moscow PD for the way they shut the scene down initially, because, 1 murder in 7 years, and then now you have 4 in a single night, that can be overwhelming. And it appeared to be anyway, okay, initially when everybody shows up. So when everybody gets there, and then the homicide team gets there, well, nobody goes in to that house yet, other than the first officer or the paramedics who are already in there. And then you want to make sure you get their photographs of their boots and anything, if they left medical in there, that's what you want to, we used to call it. We said, because sometimes there's medical intervention that they try, but they leave it all right wherever they dropped it. Even if there's equipment in there. Okay. If they forgot to get their equipment, they don't go back in there to get it. It becomes part of the crime scene and they'll get it later. Okay. And so from that point, you circle up, everybody gets together, and then whoever the supervisor is, and, I was a supervisor, I was a 2-striper. And so we would make assignments, and those assignments would be, the lead, the second, the case agent, the secondary, who's their partner. Usually it's a team of 2. And then it would be, crime scene manager. Then it would be somebody assigned, if there were, in this particular case, our agency would have assigned somebody immediately to the family for communication. Okay. And then the 5th guy, that, or gal, whoever it was, and we had, a lot of great female detectives, very smart. Sheila Hancock was one of them. And I'll throw a shout out to Sheila. She's a brilliant woman. And so the 5th person would be responsible for all of the extracurricular type of stuff, i.e., who's going to canvass, and that individual would run that part of the investigation. so that there's one point of contact back to the 5. Does that make sense?
Yes. It does.
So if you have all these other multi-agencies coming in, you have the case agent focusing on 2 things: the crime scene, i.e., getting an opportunity to go through it once it's been processed and what we call bagged and tagged. And just before it's bagged and tagged, when the ME gets there, but it's already been photographed and everything's been, locked down pretty tight. Okay. The ME gets there and the case agent, had already been in the scene by this point. Okay. But that individual, okay, it's a solo run with your CSI team at that point. But you want to start from the outside. And this is why the CSI, when they get there, that crime scene manager, whoever that person's going to be, you say to the CSI folks, like we had Michelle and we had Cheryl and a bunch of other amazing human beings, and we would say, okay, Michelle, you're running this caper out here, and Cheryl, you're running inside, and then everybody else on the teams would be responsible to those 2 individuals, one outside, one inside. But you're not working them together yet until the exterior of that house is processed. Day 1. Okay. Why is that important?
You're asking me?
Yeah. I don't want to just keep talking.
I was just enjoying listening. I mean, other than the fact of, you got entry points and things like that. I mean, but I don't really know why it's important.
Because every piece of paper, every footprint, every tire track, every type of impression in the snow, anything like that can immediately be cross-contaminated and or destroyed.
Right. Because
So,
people are going to be going in and out.
yeah, you're going to have multiple, and you're bringing stuff from the outside in to that crime scene. Okay. All of that changing and everything takes place outside. It doesn't take place inside, because everything that goes in, there's a potential for cross-contamination. And that one fiber, that one hair, that one skin cell, okay, I had Francine on the other night, okay, that anything that can meticulously go wrong, it will go wrong.
Right.
And so you want to mitigate your risk in the crime scene. And the
Right.
way you do that is you process outside first. So let's think about this. The white car that they're looking for right now, right? Okay. They were out front measuring, it looked like, right? I don't know if you've seen that picture, right?
Yeah, it looked like tire tracks.
It looked like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that's what it looks like.
Right. So we don't know where that came from or what vehicle it came from. But apparently it was important enough to do some work on it. Now, the good news is it looked like they caught that early, okay, and they got it done. So if that car left, hypothetically, whatever car that is, and they're looking for a white car now, there was one house right next door to the right that had a camera on the outside of it in the light bulb fixture outside. It was one of those web-based portable cameras.
Right. Right.
My thought is, did that camera pick up a car leaving? And if so, what time? Okay. And do they see that car coming in, which is the white car at the gas station today? The picture of that car at 03:43 or whatever time it is in the morning. Is that car coming in or is that car going out?
Right.
It's 1 mile from that gas station to the front door of.
Did you drive by that gas station?
I did not. I came in the other way.
Okay. So that's good info. So that means so the gas station video, it says that whoever was working there had been going through the tape to see if there was anything there. And here we are a month later, and that tape does have something that authorities may be interested in. They're obviously interested in it. Why a month later? I mean, is that something that should have been, even if there was nothing on there, do you think that they should have turned that 8 hours over immediately? I mean, is that just one of those things where it's a case of, hey, we're asking, because they, by the way, from the very beginning, and they have asked for everybody to monitor their security footage. It's not like they can just go out and confiscate all kinds of, who knows who caught what on what road, but they're asking everybody. And it kind of seems like that's the process that happened here. As somebody was doing that, it just came up today.
Well, and it's the car was just released a week ago or thereabouts, right? When did they release? 6 days ago they put the car
true
up?
too. Yeah, that's true
Okay,
too.
So maybe this citizen says, "Oh, wow, I'm going to go through my video and look for that car," because they're now looking for a car. So the authorities did the right thing, okay? Because we're at the place now in this investigation, I feel, that where all of the information is starting to flow. Okay. And of course the authorities, the Moscow PD and ISP and many others, the feds. I mean, when he says, we have teams in Salt Lake and we have teams in, Virginia, what he's saying is we have the FBI involved.
Sure.
Okay?
Right.
And anywhere around the world. Okay. And
right.
That's what he's saying. Okay. And their support mechanism, i.e. the lab in Quantico.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the FBI in Boise or Salt Lake, because that's where their headquarters would be. That's where the SAC is.
Right.
And so those people stand ready to go when there's something that needs to be done. Go ahead. What were you going to say? It looked like you were going to say something.
No, nope. Okay. Just listening.
No. So you don't, just because we need to be a little more patient with the process that's going on, and I know it sounds like I'm, being critical of what, I saw, but all I'm saying is from our and many others who've investigated murders. I mean, the great thing about being in Southern California, you did not know if you were going to have a shooting in the middle of a tomato field, okay, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, our city was 44 square miles.
That's huge.
It was big. And it's not contained like, a city like New York. I'll use New York as an example. That's a city. Okay. And so you have a lot of apartments, you have a lot of dwellings, and you get used to those types of environments. Okay. But when you're out, in, other parts of America, like Southern California as an example, well, there are parts of LA that have, tomato fields. There are parts of, San Diego County, tomato fields, and it's agriculture. And we used to have body dumps all the time where they shoot each other in the middle of the fields, and then flee across the border. Okay.
It's pretty common, right? For bodies to be dumped in fields like that. I mean, just from watching Forensic Files, it's like every other episode, somebody's dumped in the middle of like a cornfield.
We had 43 women that were body dumps.
Right.
And back in the day, it was the San Diego County, homicide task force.
Right. No, I mean, you're right.
So in the mountains, they don't have mountains in New York City. Okay.
No, they don't.
Those are different environments. And so you learn how to think differently, not just one linear way. Okay. And so you think out of the box and you get a lot of experience that way. Go ahead.
So let me ask you this question. And obviously I don't want, we're not being critical of law enforcement. We're just discussing here, but, and I'll obviously this question is for you. I think the answer to that question is, I think every crime scene at some point gets compromised to a certain degree, but not enough to blow an investigation. In this case, I don't believe that that's the case. Now, are there things that should have been done different? I think that you could probably look back at almost any investigation, and hindsight is always 2020. Now, I like I said, I'm not a CSI guy. I just don't know why those cars sat out there for as long as they did, and so I would say probably to a certain degree, but I don't think enough to blow or hinder the investigation. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't think the case or the scene was compromised because it was secured. Okay. And as long as that's the magic word, as long as that tape was there, then the only people that get into that place is if they sign their name on a log.
Mm.
And then they have to put their hand up in court. Okay. And that's the crime scene manager's responsibility. And that log is passed, to person, shift to shift. And it sits with those officers. So to answer that, I agree that it looks like it could be compromised, but no, it just, the sequence is, sometimes because of, experience, for lack of a better term, you don't want to learn with 4 victims in the house. You don't want to do that. And you see the emotional impact that even the captain today in the press release, he talked about the emotional impact for him. Right. And it's like, well, okay, well, buckle up, because the emotional impact belongs to the victims and their families. We're professional, they're professionals. They need to buckle up and press forward. And the communities, it has the emotional impact. The community gets hit. Now, those officers will have some challenges down the road, but that comes with the territory. And those paramedics, those people can be impacted pretty hard. Don't forget about the medical staff that went into that house and saw those victims. But, if you get called at 4:00 in the morning, that's what happens. That's why you wear that badge. And then, at some point you have to say, okay, what do I do? And you have to take the emotional side of it and put it over here and do your job. Okay? And that's what they're doing. Every one of them, I can guarantee it. Every single one of them. And I'm not being critical of them. I'm just saying that comes with the territory. I mean, you don't want to go into something and get emotionally attached to it. You can't. You cannot. The biggest decision, I think, one of the best decisions I made years ago on a very high profile case was I assigned, a buddy of mine, I've shared this a dozen times, to the family immediately. And we learned that right from the get-go, that you put a liaison to the family, and that individual's responsibility is just to communicate with the family, not necessarily about the details of the investigation. Okay. But the critical piece of the investigation, i.e., they want information about their loved ones and how it's progressing for justice.
Yep.
But they also have to remember, they have to walk hand in hand into a courtroom with the PD and the district attorney's office. They cannot create a friction. Okay? And that was one of the things that when I was assigned through the Cold Case Foundation and Maya Miliette's case with Chula Vista PD, they'll tell you today, Richard and Mary Chris and the lieutenant and the captains down there and the chief, you'll notice in the press conference, they said, we want to thank the Cold Case Foundation. Remember, I don't know if you remember that one, but anybody can go back and look at it. The press conference where the chief came out, she said, I want to thank the Cold Case Foundation. What nobody knew is I was sitting in that police department, many meetings, okay, and bridging those gaps in communication between, this and that, okay? And in other cases with agencies that have no experience, we've actually, we work side by side as, homicide consultants and help them think through and think out of the box. So, that's what we do in the Cold Case Foundation. And, some guys retire and, they sit back and smoke cigars and, do whatever they do. I'm still engaged. My mind
Criticize other people.
Well, I don't care. Seriously, I don't. You know me. I mean,
I do.
you know me a long time.
Very well.
It's more about them than it is me. Okay?
Of course
Yeah.
it is.
And so the other side of that coin, though, is we're helping families and we're helping agencies. And, we've got a lot of good people that do it. People forget that the Cold Case Foundation was started by John Douglas and Greg Cooper. John Douglas. Now think about that. Okay. The movie Mindhunter, the books are predicated and based off of his life. He was the executive director of the Cold Case Foundation, the organization I work with and work for. Okay, I'm the director of law enforcement relationships. Okay. So whatever people say is irrelevant, because they don't know.
Right.
And so to go back to the case that day, all that would have been a perfect scenario, the way I laid it out there just briefly. Right. And then from there, you can work your way into the house, because that's the direction the suspect would have had to take. They had to go from the outside in, and you would work the entire outside of the house and, run the faro or, peg your digital evidence and, put your markers on, get your overall photographs, bag and tag it if it's light and like the glove, light and bright, as you can see it and it's right there. Tag it, photograph it, measure it, where's it sitting, okay, and then bag it and put it in evidence, okay. And the technology today does all of that. I mean, you just put the marker there, you photograph it, you can put a stick there, it hits it with a GPS, satellite coordinates, boom, you're in. Okay? Put it in a bag. And then you tow the cars, and then you do a faro again without the vehicles. And guess what? Now you have a pristine outside where you can pull cars in and everybody can park and talk and do whatever they need to do. But all of those tire impressions in there, you ever heard of Craig Pyre? Look that name up. He was a San Diego CHP officer. He killed a woman by the name of Kara Knott. The San Diego PD nailed him on a special. The CHP patches are gold fibers, specially made for the CHP. And one of those fibers was on her body. And then Pyre went down for that. And another one was a sheriff's officer. His son had taken his company ride, stole his ride, and he pulled up alongside of another officer and shot him. And then he took off. Well, guess what? Those tire impressions are only made for police vehicles. Okay. And they knew, the San Diego Sheriff's Department at the time, the homicide team down there, Manny Garcia, they knew it was another cop. Okay. Now do the math on that. Okay. You're looking for a car and everybody's parking where cars park. What?
Right.
You know?
Not a great, yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Now, one of the things, and this has been a topic of contention, and I'm going to give my take on it here, and then you can follow up with if you want, and if you don't want to, that's fine as well, because I think that we probably feel close to the same in this situation. But the question here is, what are your thoughts on the dad giving out details about the crime, which potentially could compromise the investigation? Should he be looked at? First of all, everybody gets looked at. Everybody gets looked at, or they should get looked at. Typically, how Chris just said that crime scenes, you work from the outside in. With suspects, it seems like you want to work from the inside out. You go to the people that are closest, and depending on what kind of leads and things like that you have, all that is subject to change, I would imagine. And so that portion of it being, those are my thoughts on that portion of it. Now, as for the dad giving out details,
her father's, first of all, let me stop for a second.
Sure.
Okay? Her father's not her father is not to be blamed. Her
Correct.
father is angry because he's just lost a child. And that anger is expressing itself, and justifiably and righteously so.
Mhm.
Okay. Nobody understands the depth of that pain until they've lost a child. Where the agency needs to do a better job, and I know they're doing it today, is it's the agency's responsibility to help the families. They are the victims here, not only the 4 victims, but the families. So no matter what the parents do or say or come out and say or whatever, that is as a direction that's being directed because of frustration. It's not a direction being directed because they want to interfere, they want to get around, they want to do it themselves. No, none of that. In fact, I would put uh, you know dollars to corn dogs to donuts. That father is just trying to make sense of a senseless situation where he will not understand, nor will any of those parents understand or comprehend why. And so, but that has to be, managed by the agency. They have a responsibility to say, okay, here's not what we're doing, but we need you to understand, and this is the reasons why. And all it does is called communication, and you sit down with them, and you talk to them, and you keep them in the loop, and that's where the importance of that investigator from the team is assigned to manage the family's expectations and also to help them through the process. Because you have a community who's victimized as a whole. You have the 4 children, or the co-eds, Kylie, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, who are the victims. But then you have a whole other subset of family members, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, moms, dads, and you multiply that 4 times, maybe you may have 50, maybe 100 people affected by this in the immediate family. And the agency has to understand that. And then you have to manage, the media and the society in today's world, right? Social media, us, for lack of a better term. And when I say us, not us, you or I, because I try to be responsible, and I know you do. Okay? But there are some wackadoodles that need to be under control. They're problematic. Okay? But there's a whole bunch of sub emotions that take place with the death of a child. On top of now add homicide. It's unbelievable. The magnitude of that. Your family experienced it. Okay, when your mother died in front of you when you were younger, and that's why I like you and why I come onto your show, because I know you teach with authenticity. Okay, because you've been through it, and these poor families are just trying to make sense of it. And so I don't.
My dad was on the run for a week, and my grandparents and my family were all going, well, what's going on? Why is he not in custody? Where is he? Why is he not in how have you not found him yet? Matter of fact, they never even found him. He ended up turning himself in. But trust me, there were some heated discussions amongst my family and law enforcement right after the murder. And for years on, we felt that law enforcement didn't do enough, and that may at the time have been true. Okay, so like you said, I know exactly. Well, no, I don't know exactly, because I have not lost a child. My grandmother has, to a violent act. I lost my mother, but look, I don't blame the man at all. I think that he's doing anything. Everybody reacts to grief different. I mean, and this is grief beyond compare. And I just felt that, like you said, there should have been somebody there to help them immediately. And I just don't know if that was the case or not. Maybe they did, but and this is right here. Law enforcement needs to appoint advocates for support for the grieving families. My humble opinion, they do typically. Like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of that. But I'm not blaming the father. The one thing is at all, by the way, it is frustrating, and it is. Frustrating is not even the right word. It's worse than that for these.
And the holidays are here, as
worst.
And my story, and so I can talk about this because I've lived it. I lived it in 2003. If you don't know me, right, the lab rats, and by the way, if you haven't hit the subscribe button for Josh, hit it now, please. He's a good guy.
Thank you.
But, when Karen and I we were at Disneyland. And when the phone rang, and it's an officer on the other line, and at first it was our daughter. It was like, and she was like, "Dad, Ryan's dead. Ryan's dead." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Who is this?" I didn't even think it was my daughter. And next thing you know, I hear the crack of the police radio behind her. And by the way, I was working homicide at the time. Okay, and at the time, I knew everybody down there. And it was an officer who came on the phone. He says, "Mr. McDonough?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Hi, this is Officer so-and-so. And I'm sorry to advise you, but your son's been killed in an accident." I said, "What are you talking about? Who is this?" I didn't even believe it. I couldn't believe I heard the words. And to this day, I know exactly where I was standing. I was standing at the Teacups in Disneyland in Anaheim, California, with my niece who was visiting us. And my Karen's sister and my brother-in-law. And that phone rang. It was the cell phone. And to this day, I can't tell you how I got out of Disneyland. And next thing you know, we were in cars being driven back towards San Diego. And so when I hear that, people jumping on the parents and the father, and no, I can guarantee you when that phone rang, it was, if you hear the captain today say in a press conference, okay, that he was in shock, multiply that 10,000 times. Okay, just multiply it maybe 50,000 times. And, that's what those families are going through. And it is really a traumatic problem. And so the agency, in my opinion, is doing everything that they can. But I was really great to hear today that they were able to have somebody sit down with the family and start creating this dialogue of communication, because it's so necessary, because it's very, very, painful, and people don't understand it unless they've walked in those shoes.
And this is not something that is just brand new to investigations. Part of the investigation, and I think a big part of the investigation, is taking care of the family as well. That when the police would get called out to my house when we were kids for like domestics and stuff, I can't tell you how many teddy bears I collected from cops that they go right over to their trunk, stickers, teddy bears, yo-yos, and I remember them just kind of talking to me, and obviously it's all overwhelming. You don't know what's going on, especially when you're a little kid and you look around and you're going, "Oh, look at all these lights." And then these intimidating people, you have no idea, who the police are, but you don't really know what the police are there for. And they're there trying to not only figure out what's going on, but to comfort as well. And, so, like you said, it's such a process, because they also have to get it to where they can prove it in a court of law. If they're not going to get a confession out of somebody, they need to get them dead to rights, and that's all part of the investigation. But it is very important for police to hold back information that's critical for anybody.
Correct.
It doesn't matter who it is.
Correct.
And like it just.
But you also have, I'm sorry, I
No,
interrupt.
you didn't.
No, you also have to, I'm assuming the agency immediately signed a liaison to the family, and sometimes that they get rejected, right? And
Sure.
so you got to somehow work through that as an investigator and somebody on the team. But hold back information is critical to only information that the suspect would know and understand, that you can pull that out, or they pull it out during an interview process, either during the course of the investigation and or the ultimate interview, right? What we used to call going for the snot, i.e. when people start breaking down and they realize that they did something horrible. Okay. And so, certain personality types, they just don't have any empathy. They're never going to feel sorry for anything that they ever did. So you just, you have to understand that also going in. But there's a lot of things that happened long before that. Okay. But the holdback information is critical. But at the same time, there's other information that you can share with a family and lower their stress level, as well as lower their expectations in relationship to time. Okay. I think the family's frustrated because they want things to move faster. Well, that's where it's critical to sit down and remind them that this is just phase one of multiple phases. Phase two will be the arrest. Okay. And the family's going to have all kinds of emotional outbursts at that time. But if you talk to them, sometimes you can even, get the advocates to have counselors and people to sit down with them and say, look, there's going to be multiple stages to this. Now, this isn't even talking about their grief yet, right? It's just compounded additional stress to the family. And you can lower that stress level by communication, right? Communication, and understanding, and not necessarily trying to give an answer. Sometimes families just need to vent to the investigation, to the investigators. And I can tell you now, but I was in meetings, even in Chula Vista, with a family just unloaded. And the chief just sat there and took it.
Mm-hmm.
And she turned and said, thank you for sharing that. And guess what? Everybody walked out of there and they were all crying and they were hugging but they felt like they were heard. And that's what's important. The chief didn't reveal anything about the investigation, but they needed to be heard. And that's, I think, where the stage of where the family could potentially be. And I don't know, because I'm not there. I'm just going by past experiences, of being in those environments. And I think the agency is doing the best that they can with the resources that they have, and that the investigation's fluid. Could it be better? Of course, everybody can do better. All of us, including me. But do I think it's going to be a catastrophe come the trial? No. I think they're focused, and once they get a line of sight on a suspect, if they already don't have it, it's going to be a straight shot. Do not collect $200. You're going to jail.
Yeah, I think that one of the major time factors in this is processing everything that they need to process. There has to be, and they've alluded to the amount of evidence that they're dealing with. And look, personally, I feel that they're on to somebody. Obviously, they have something in mind with this car. They felt it necessary to put this car out there to the public, knowing exactly the frenzy that it would cause. And they were still willing to do that because that's how bad. And it's a little bit of, in my opinion, it's a little bit of, hey, let's see if we can get them to come to us. And at the same time, a little pressure there. And then we can also feed, the media something that they can have that's tangible to this investigation. Now, what you said before, and this is a fantastic observation by you. I said, how come they didn't do this before? Well, you're right. They only found out about the vehicle or put it out there just a week ago. And some person working a night shift at a gas station was taking their downtime to go through hours and hours and hours of tape from that day, and they found something that they thought that was important. This is how crimes get solved.
Correct.
Just like that. If you think that there's an investigator in this world that can walk in and look at all the evidence and somehow, create this hologram of a suspect in the middle of the crime scene, you got another thing coming. They need help, and they've asked for help solving this crime. It obviously seems as there were no witnesses at the time. Obviously anybody in that house, the two surviving roommates,
who were also traumatized.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I couldn't even, in the world that we live in, people were like throwing them under the bus right away too. Everybody that had any kind of connection with these poor victims became subject to intense scrutiny. Probably, I would say mostly unfairly. I mean, just to throw people out there left and right, I mean, you're putting innocent people in harm's way. In my personal opinion.
We don't need to do that. But remember, that all these crimes, I'm getting my book, my book, me. All of these crimes forever, any crime that I've ever worked is solved, either it's cut and dry, i.e., the gun's there, the body's there, the gunpowder still in the air kind of thing. And you got 5 people saying, yeah, that guy shot him. Okay. Click. That's
right.
Done. But this is a whodunit. Okay. And a whodunit is, there's a lot of things that are going to be into play here. Okay. The first thing is, number one, these kind of crimes are solved by citizens. Okay. What I mean by that is knocking on doors and, shaking door handles. Okay. What did you see? Where were you? What did you hear? Okay. Etc. Right? Canvassing. And then you go back and you recanvass, and you go back and you recanvass, and you do it again if you have to. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second is, if there is DNA, then they may already have DNA through some of the separation techniques that Francine talked about, and they may have already run it through that process called Andy.
Hey, real quick, can we also throw that episode of the interview room up in the chat, the link for the episode with Francine where she talks about DNA? It's fantastic. Sorry, Chris, if you haven't watched that, after we're done here, head on over and check that out. I mean, and if you don't subscribe to the interview room, please do that as well. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. And so, but anyway, rapid DNA can be obtained in about an hour and a half. And you can quickly get a profile. And then, of course, you got to send it to Quantico and get a match. Okay. And so they may have already done that up front. Okay. And that's why when you hear, well, that person's been cleared or this person's been that, they may have gotten a swab. We don't know this behind the scene. Okay. And there may have already been some comparative analysis taking place. And then the third piece of this puzzle is always the digital forensics. Okay. So the digital forensics are going to be crucial. And then, of course, the video management, i.e. the car now. Okay, there's a couple of systems out there. One of them is called BriefCam. If you're not familiar with it, lab rats, go look up BriefCam. And Andy is ANDE, okay, not AA. So you guys know it's not ANDI, it's ANDE. And they use it, and down at the border, they use it in foreign countries. They use it in war crimes. For rapid identification. And, Josh, can you pull that up? ANDE? Well, and so that can be really quick. Okay. And so that then you say, okay, well, if we don't have anything there, let's say the person's not in the system, i.e. CODIS, or they've never been arrested. Well, that's why the first prong of knocking on doors and rattling doorknobs is critical, because that's when you get into the DLR, right? Doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, something's wrong with this scenario here. There it is. Yep. And by the way, this is revolutionizing the law enforcement industry. It's all the old, the technology developed because of all of the SA kits that were sitting in evidence rooms for years.
Right.
And so it was run, this machine was designed, and it breaks, gives you a DNA profile in about an hour and a half just off of a swab, and you can take it to the scene. And there it is, see? Less than 2 hours.
Wow.
And you can take it to the scene, and immediately you can literally go from that swab to this machine. And for all we know, the FBI sent this, and they had it inside the house. We don't know that. Okay. I don't know that. I'm just, taking a shot at it, but this is rapid DNA, and all it's used for is to immediately identify, a DNA analysis or a profile. Okay. It's a force multiplier, like it says there. Okay.
Yeah, and it says where can Andy be deployed? Police station, crime scenes, van, trucks, cars. But I mean, it's a portable DNA
lab.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is
for an initial profile.
And you can even it says what samples can be processed, cheek swabs, blood stains, SA kits, cups, cans, bottles, cigarette butts, corn dogs, gum, and drinking straws, bones, hair, teeth, semen, muscle, and tissue, and many others.
Yes.
Did I mention corn dogs?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Twice. And that's
Twice.
a good thing. Now go to look up BriefCam, BriefCam. Run that one up. We'll show everybody BriefCam. So this is a video management system. And what this is, okay, is video analytics. Okay. And what this can do, so where the PIO said we have hundreds of hours of, video and all this other stuff.
Yes.
Well, this video analytics was deployed at the shooting in Las Vegas, where 53 people, remember that horrific crime where Jason Aldean was, performing?
I do remember that.
And so this is the system that was utilized to go through hundreds and hundreds of hours of video from the casinos, from all the phones, everything that came in. And it basically can condense I'll give you an example. So let's say they're looking for a white car. If they have 8 hours of video, probably in about 30 seconds, you will have every spot where that car was in the city of Moscow. And this is the company that can do that. There's a couple more. Vigilon is another one, but this company here is a great product for law enforcement. And it doesn't monitor you. It has to be data in. So you have to have all of that data, i.e. the video like they're using. And then you get this technology, this software, and then you import all of that software, and then the AI does its thing, and it kicks out all kinds of cool stuff.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's got all kinds of technology, man. That portable DNA tester is something else, man.
It's not cheap. It's cheap for the little devices, the lab kits. The box is quite expensive, and so the feds and I know the AG's office in Utah has one, so they have access to it, and the boxes and the kits are just like buying boxes of swabs and stuff. So, but that technology, if you think about it, it's pretty amazing. Go ahead.
Well, this is a great question, and thank you for your super chat. Can I ask why toxicology reports take 8 weeks, Chris, yet DNA only 2 hours, I believe? This is a great live, gentlemen. Blessings, Sydney, Australia. Thank you so much.
That is a great question. The labs typically have backlogs of tox test, and typically DNA would take 8 weeks as well. 4 to 6 weeks typically it'll come back. Okay. And that is, sorry, I just got distracted. I had a text message come in. I was like, what the heck is that? Sorry. Anyway, this is for rapid DNA for a case like this, as an example, but typically everything would be sent back. In a case like this, if the FBI was working, it'd go to Quantico. If ISP's working, it'd go to their lab here in Idaho. And it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to return those results.
But like in a case like this, does that stuff get expedited? Can it get expedited? Can it go to the front of the line?
It can, and because of the high profile of it. But at the same time, remember, there are other court cases waiting for, and other dispositions, right? You've got people who are potentially in prison or in jail that may be innocent. So, those DNA tests are just as important to them. So the labs, play a balancing act. But I would submit to you in a case like this, this went to the top of the shelf.
Yeah. And they want to, because first of all, there's a person or persons running around that has committed a quadruple homicide. That's never extremely dangerous. And, so they want to ease some of that tension by trying to get this person off the street or persons off the street as fast as possible. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes they just get the right break at the right time. And in these cases can get solved quickly. And then sometimes they do. And I'm not even saying that this case, I do not for 1 second do I believe that this case is being dragged out. If they had enough to arrest the person, yes, that's what they would do. But at the same time, they're working against the killer, but they're also working to ease the public's mind. In the Leilani Quentin Simon case, the chief of police down there, they asked him if he had felt any kind of pressure, public pressure. And he says, no, I didn't. because he said, people, that kind of goes along with these cases, and you'd even hear people go, why is it taking so long to find, if they think that he's there, I don't believe he's there, everybody just starts going on and on and on and on. And sure enough, after 40 something days, they find little Quentin Simon remains. And, I don't know exactly what, it doesn't matter, but they confirmed that it was him. And they ignored public pressure and scrutiny, and they just worked. And I think that's what's going on in this case as well. Like, you cannot bend to that scrutiny because it'll just get in the way of doing your job. Now, do they want to assure people? Of course they do. Do they want to catch the killer or killers? Yes, of course they do. But I don't believe that we're at this point of cold case talk. None of that stuff, man. I mean, Chris, you work for the Cold Case Foundation. What is a cold case?
Well, it is when they're out of leads, they're done. It's empty.
Done. And then they come out and go, hey, we have nothing else to work off of.
Right. And then what we do is we assemble a panel of experts, and we have these meetings, on a video wall from all of these experts in all these different sciences. We have MEs, we have lawyers, we have, scientists, forensic doctors, psychologists. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a special with Ann Burgess on the 21st. I think it's the 21st. We had to check our calendars, but Ann's coming up with Dr. Gary Burgos, who is just a fascinating human being. But if nobody's ever heard of the name Ann Burgess, before my show, go look it up. I just had her on it recently.
Yeah.
But she's great. She's coming back, and she's going to weigh in on this and other things. But anyway, so we assemble a panel of experts, and what we do is we sit down with the agencies, and they debrief us on the case, and we hear everything, from top to bottom, and then we give assessments, and then we give expertise in relationship to support. So everything is, let's say they didn't have access to a lab, okay, or they needed lab results quickly. And this is why, some of these technologies, why I'm very adverse in them or aware of them. Okay? And so then we help them work through the process. And, sometimes we're embedded right with them, working alongside them. And sometimes we do it behind the scenes. It all depends. And when we're done, everybody, sits back. We give them an assessment. We give them support. And we work with, the support of families, and we work with the support of law enforcement. I was recently involved in a caper from a young man who died in Siberia. And his family, contacted the Cold Case Foundation, and the case was submitted, and it goes through a whole scrutiny of process. And, there's Greg, who, is an amazing human being.
AKA Coop.
He taught at Quantico psychology. He's a really smart dude.
Yes, he is.
Just ask the trolls, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he cracks up. He thinks it's hysterical.
Yeah.
But
he's got insight into people's minds that a lot of other people don't.
Yeah, no, he can play with the best of them. Trust me. I mean, that guy's interviewed everybody. And I'll give you another example. I mean, Dr. Larry Simons, right? I mean, he's right now, I can't tell you where he is, but he's right now in the prisons. Well, I can tell you one place where he's at. I can't, never mind. But he's, this guy goes and sits down, real time, not old time, not past time, real time, and others. Same with Gary and same with Ann. And, they get in the mind of the perpetrators in the 21st century. Right now, we've got some research going on that we're involved in about what's the role of social media and how is it playing into the psyche of serial killers.
Yeah.
Now think about that. What if Ted Bundy had access to all of the available smut on the internet?
He'd be even more dangerous.
It's crazy.
And he was as dangerous as it gets. I mean, it would be like Ted Bundy on steroids,
right. And then we do training, right? We have a training component as well.
Mhm.
And I was, as you know, I was involved in, Operation Lady Justice
Right.
with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. It was just disbanded about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just remember that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was, hammering me like, yeah, sure. Right. And then I put a couple of pictures of me up in the class and
Crickets.
the with the class of these investigators and they still don't believe it. So I don't care.
Chris,
you
you
know.
go, the sky is blue. I say, no, it's not. It's orange.
Yeah, exactly. And so that program now, for 2 years, the task force, the homicide task force, we were the individuals who trained them. And my role was in cognitive interviewing and cold case homicide investigation.
Mm.
That was my role. And then of course, kids. My expertise is, criminal behavior analysis in relationship to, deviants during the commission of homicide. And we have a lot of people involved in different atmospheres. I mean, so that said, we do a lot of different things and across the country. Right now, we've got about, I think it's been running just under 100 cases. And we have almost just under 200 people in the Cold Case Foundation. And they're working, with various agencies across the United States.
Right.
And my job, it varies. Anything dealing with kids, I typically will get involved in behind the scenes or sometime in front if I get burned. So
Right.
if I get somebody snitches on me.
Yeah.
So that's
right. Well, look, I mean, so let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Does this case get solved?
Will this case get solved?
Correct.
Yeah, of course it will.
Yeah.
It's too high profile not to get solved. Will it take time? Yes, it's going to take time. Are they on the right course? Absolutely. 100%. They're doing everything just right. The fact that the agency asked for help is a really good sign. Now, is it going to be as quickly as we want it to? I.e. the public, the social media and all this other stuff. No,
we could wake up. I'm not saying this happened. We could wake up tomorrow and there could be an arrest.
Absolutely. And
I mean, that's how it's going to happen. Unless there's like some sort of manhunt situation, which is possible. I don't, I mean, that's how basically they're going to come up with, hey, they either know who did this and where they're at towards the end of this case and they go get them, or they go and hunt them down. And in that case, you'll see his picture or their picture or whoever's picture plastered everywhere. That's what will happen. So, but yeah,
the killer's too intelligent, Larry says.
What's that?
The killer's too intelligent. What makes you think that, Larry? Just out of curiosity, I mean, he got a good comment there. He says the killer's too intelligent.
How does he know? Does he know the killer?
That's why I'm asking him. What makes him think that?
I don't even know. I don't even know what.
It's all right. He says he'll never be caught. The killer's too intelligent. Well, that's his downfall.
Okay, can somebody?
That's id. That's id. Okay, that's his downfall. You see, I mean, just like BTK. I mean, yeah, it took 30 years, but they got him. And as a result of that, they didn't have the technology that they did when it first started. Remember the first slaughter that he did was the Otero family.
Mm.
And his target was really the girl, the youngest girl, the 12-year-old girl down in the basement. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just think it's funny when people say things like that. I mean, look, and I'll tell you this, some of the most intelligent criminal minds are working on this case right now. And I can guarantee you, anybody that is willing to plunge a knife into 4 people out of what seems to be, I don't know what the reasoning is, or if it was rage. I don't find that to be intelligent. I don't find that person to be intelligent. And I do not think that they took like that this is Dexter or anything dumb like that. I think that this is, look, it's probably going to be somebody that somebody knows, you know what I mean? It's going to be just one of those things, but I don't think, that he is I wouldn't say intelligent. And I'm sure he left, or she, probably he. I think everybody's kind of leaning towards that, right? I mean, I catch myself on it, but you know, it sounds like
even that last comment, he is too intelligent. So even he thinks it's a guy.
Yeah.
He'll get caught. He'll get caught. Because this personality type, as you know, Coop has broken him down, and many other doctors have broken him down. He's a little organized. He got lucky right now in terms of in his head, but you see, that's what's emboldening him. And he'll make a mistake because he's already made some. Because, those are the kind of things that, they believe, okay, that they're invincible because they think through everything. Well, you know what? We're human, and humans make mistakes.
And the kind of technology that they are dealing with now, and when you're talking about, the Bundy and BTK, and we're much more advanced with technology than we ever have been. This person made an absolute disaster at the crime. Like it was a disaster of evidence at the crime scene. The police have said that they have information that they're going to hold back from the public. This case, like I said, I've said it all along.
Do you remember who they interviewed in prison for the Green River killer? And a lot of people don't remember this or know this. You know who they went to? They went to Ted Bundy. And they said, "Ted, how would you do this?"
Right.
And you know what he told them? He said, "Stake out his dump sites. He's going to return."
He uses them.
And that's how they nailed him. Gary Ridgway returned. He came back because it was the fantasy was rebuilding.
Yeah.
And he needed to keep that moving. Well, they were sitting there waiting for him. And the Green River killing was solved because of another serial killer.
Well, a lot of banks and stuff like that have been designed and helped design by people who used to crack them.
Yeah.
Because they know what they're looking for and what needs to be guarded against. So just like you said, they do that kind of thing all the time. And what a brilliant idea to start and that's where the behavioral analysis unit comes into play, is they start cataloging. It was just of the most importance to talk to these people that were willing to talk and that have committed these crimes, because Chris, you have interviewed serial killers, Wesley Allen Dodd, right?
My deal was kids, serial killers who killed children.
Yeah. And what did Dodd tell you? What would he say when, say somebody would put up resistance or a door was locked? What would he say? What did he say there?
Well, that was another guy. He did over 500 sexual assaults, and I didn't interview that particular individual.
Uh-huh.
But I did Dodd, and he told me the simplicity. I asked him, I said, "What would you tell children, or adults who have children? What would have prevented them from becoming a victim. And you know what he said? It was really simple. He says, just teach your child how to say no. Because every child that he approached, with a grooming or alluring tactic, he already knew that child was going to die. And he reached his hand out and for one of the kids, and it was a little boy, and the child just reached up and took his hand. Now that's the innocence of youth at that point. Okay? And you can't really, focus anything on the, to that child, but children are so vulnerable. And this is why even in today's world, it's very dangerous to go down some of the paths that we're going down, but because of reality out there. There are people that are predatorial behavior. And I've been studying those guys, for years. And so it's very, very dangerous. I mean, Matthew Checky's death, which was, if you want to see that, I've encouraged people to go look at my video of the interview I did with Brandon Wilson. This guy was in the top 15 percentile ACT scores in the United States, and his IQ was either in the high 140s or 160s. That was his IQ. And I sat down with him for 6 hours and interviewed him, and he demonstrated on for me. We finally got to a place where he demonstrated how he had taken the child's life. And that video I posted on my channel. If anybody questions my validity, go over and take a look at it. And, that'll be the answer right there. I don't have to justify anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, to that point, again, this is where society is. People can say anything they want. They can do anything they want. Well, guess who else is doing that? And watching and learning. These are learned behavior. Every behavior has a purpose. Every behavior has a purpose. And these individuals, these individuals are extremely dangerous because they're chameleons. They just mesh. Do you think LA will allow private investigators to supervise actions? No.
Me neither. Nor should they. Oh, my sister's calling. That was nice.
All right, say hi.
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, I don't think so either. Let me see here. Get a couple more questions in, and then
you got a lot of stars up there, bud. You got to go through them.
I've gotten through a bunch of them, I think. Okay. Okay, hold on. Do you think just one intruder was involved? 4 adults. It's a lot to handle for just one person. Not if they're asleep. I think it's just one person, but I'm just peeing in the wind.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either. And it would be disingenuous for me to sit here and go, yeah, it's definitely. Well, I don't know. I that's what I think, but there's nothing for me to back that up with any kind of.
So Lazy Millennial's back, and he says, I don't think the police are smart enough to catch this killer.
Yeah. Well, maybe here, let me screenshot that name and then. It's just so stupid. It's just so dumb. Yeah, he's obviously a fan. Sounds like he's a fan, It sounds like you're rooting for that to happen, which is by the way, and don't come into a chat. And,
Would you be?
Okay, all right.
Would you be? Right. Is your cousin still at San Diego State, Brett in the hall down there?
Yeah, he's Brett in the hall. Brett
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, he's San Diego State. He minors in science and majors in finance, and he sucks at both of them.
Exactly. Now you're cooking. Okay, go ahead. Now we're cooking.
Okay, yeah. Look, if you weren't up here right now, and because I respect you, I would just unload.
I know.
You know what? It's Christmas. Santa's here.
Give some love.
And
It's all in the belly, buddy. It's how you present.
Telling me.
It's all,
I mean,
it's
look,
all. I love Buddy pulling the.
I do too.
Seriously, you should see him drive. He's crazy.
I could imagine.
He's nuts.
I could imagine.
And animals are good barometers for people. I love my. I'm a dog guy. I love all animals, though. I just do.
Yeah.
And they're very comforting to my soul personally. Buddy has been just an absolute cool best friend outside of my wife. I mean, she is my best friend, but my dog is a close second, and on the other side of my kids. But Budzo, he can pull an Airstream like the best of them. In fact, they have Jack Russell Airstream pulling contests.
Oh, really? Do they?
Yeah, I enrolled him last year. He won. And that's how come he's got the red harness on him.
That's a prize.
Yeah, he won that last year. Absolutely won that. Absolutely won. I love your little memes. They are hysterical. Absolutely hysterical.
So topical, right? It's just like, I mean, the funny thing was, so I put this together, and then like, I'm going, there's a reindeer. And then I go, I'm going to put Buddy's head on that reindeer. And it just came to me. It was a gift. Some people solve crimes. Some people Photoshop stuff. Yep.
He's got a little, he's got a little friend over here. Her name is Sassy. And they ran in the snow the other day and he disappeared in the snow. It was hysterical. Literally, I couldn't see him. It was like 3 inches of snow and he laid down and I was looking around. I was like, where are you? And I looked over, I see the indentation. He pops his head up. I'm like, what the heck's wrong with you? You're a nut job. Let's go.
This is actually when Chris was undercover. Because you can see he's throwing up the Vatos Locos sign.
Yep.
And see, Glitter is Forever found out about that as well. And as you can see, it's like, true to the street.
Homie clause. That's what they call it. Homie clause. Homie clause. It's like, what's up? What's up, SA? Hey,
what's up, dog?
What's happening, homie clause? How you doing, man? I'm kicking it right here.
The fact that I found a picture of an Airstream with Christmas lights on it was not an easy thing.
That's cool. It's very cool.
But I found it. And by the way, this photo, my favorite.
That is I still have that donut. I've been eating that for like a year and a half.
It's a big donut, I'll tell you that. But like, see that Christmas tree? I put that in there.
Oh. I would have never guessed that.
I'm sure you did. Well, yeah, everything I do is authentic. You can see two heads overlapping here. Yes. I don't know how that happened, but it is what it is.
This is good. And did you know my tires are donuts on the Airstream?
I did know that, actually.
Yes.
You eat a lot of them.
I do. Well, all cops do. They're cop rolls. Retired cops too.
It looks like you're wearing a medium, but should be wearing an extra large.
Correct.
I mean, I've been there, done that. Yeah. Not a big deal.
Yep.
You look good.
It's how you work the belly. You got to work the belly, and sometimes you have to hold it like that. Yeah. I don't know why, but sometimes it looks like you should.
Well, do you remember? So you remember the movies, The Santa Claus, right?
Yes.
With Tim Allen.
Tim Allen, yeah.
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 So this is the photo from that when he went to the doctor because he was gaining an inordinate amount of weight, and he grabs his belly because he says, the doctor says, you put on a little weight, and he's like, does this look like a little weight to you? And starts jiggling his belly. So that's where I got that photo from. And I could see, but you've lost weight. You look good.
Well, I'm doing okay at that. I'm not letting the old man in. I love the internet because I've had people, say that, that guy's a drunk, I'm like, well, that's awesome. And then I apparently I have dentures. Okay.
Can you pull on those for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, I just it's hysterical. You gotta learn how to just let go. Tragedy is tragedy, and that's
How many
that's
cliffs have you talked me off of, Chris?
a couple.
Yeah. Like I'll get this like phone call. Are you doing okay? No, I'm not doing okay. I hate it all.
You have a reason though. You have a reason. Sometimes, the holidays are tough, tough times for people,
Oh,
including
man.
myself. I mean, just like the next
know.
person, right? And
I know.
and it takes people up to stress levels, and they start losing it, and it's a sad time. It's a
It
sad.
can be.
It can be very,
It
and
can.
we need to be akamai, as they say in Hawaii. We need to be considerate of our friends and our families, and we need to be sensitive to listening to people and understanding, trying to understand anyway. And if people get into, ruts around this time of the year, we need to be good people and reach out to those that are our friends or our families, and just kind of lift each other up somehow, right? And because it's hard, it's difficult. Life is not easy sometimes. Life can be easy, but a lot of it, I still lean very heavily on The Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl. And then, of course, for me, it's a religious, situation internally.
Mm.
Uh, but that book is so powerful. And folks, lab rats, if you've never read that book, please do that. It's called The Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. And the most, I think, impressive point that has always stuck with me at the time of low points in my life is he says, they can strip me of everything, but they cannot take my dignity. And, this is a guy that is in the Auschwitz and the concentration camps. And it's kind of like, it doesn't count what people say or think or feel about you. That's not what counts. What counts is what you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people, and how that God sees you as an individual if you believe in God. Whoever that is for you. Okay? Whoever that, if it's the universe, if it's the Savior for me, and or if it's Jehovah, or Elohim, whoever it is for you as an individual. If you feel that that makes you who you are, then that's who you follow. And then we as individuals need to respect the shoes of another, because we don't know what it feels like to be in those shoes. We know what it feels like to be in ours, but sometimes we have to kind of step out and try to feel what another person is going through. And that's, a little small part of empathy. And you learn real fast people that don't have it. But that's more of a signal of I need help. And I'm not talking about the criminal mind. I'm just talking about those who are suffering. And so, I had a guy years ago. He it was a young lady actually, and she was in a hotel room, and I got to the door, and she had a scalpel, and she had it right here on her wrist. And I sat down with her for about 2 hours while she held the the scalpel here. And then she moved it and she put it over here. And, through a 2-hour conversation, all we did is we related to each other as human beings. And eventually she put it down. And of course, she went to get some help because she needed it. And I think we can do that. I think we can be better people. I'm not perfect at it personally, but I think even in the true crime community, I mean, with the mainstream media, projecting that the true crime community is just destroying these investigations by the way people are approaching them, and just doing things that, just don't make sense. And, we need to do a better job at that. And I think we can make a difference for families and victims to support them. And that's my goal. That's my mission statement anyway, behind the scenes, that, just try to be better today than I was yesterday. And that's a difficult task, even for me and the next person. Right. So.
Well, Chris, like I've said this before, and I've told you this in private, and I'll tell you it in public. You're one of the best guys I know. I know your heart. We've had many, many conversations. Like I said, 99% of our relationship is off the air, and it's you're a very good friend and an incredible human with a skill set that not many people either know of or don't understand. But over 500 death investigations, 300 homicides. Your record speaks for itself, and I'm always here to support the people that deserve to be supported. And you do amazing things. Like you said, most people don't know, 90% of what you do behind the scenes. They see YouTube and, you do some shows and stuff like that. But, most of the stuff that you do isn't discussed, nor does it need to be discussed, nor do you want to discuss it, even though you could. A lot of this stuff doesn't matter, so I appreciate you, and I appreciate you giving me 2 hours of your time. It's a blessing, and thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Thank you, Josh. You're a friend, and your kindness is very appreciated. And, stay the course, right? And Lab Rats, and folks, if you've not subscribed to Josh's channel, you see why I call him a friend. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, send it around the world. It helps him. It helps, he's engaged. Can I say that?
Sure. You can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot you'd made that public, but, and he's going to marry so far up, he can't see straight. So,
Sure.
This is good. Treat her right. And,
Yeah.
As you do. And I'm just saying that, anyway, so thank you so much for the invite, and, have a great night, bud.
All right. Take care, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
As always, Chris coming through in a major way. What a fantastic guy. And once again, thank you so much. Thank you guys, everybody, for showing up, the super chats, super stickers, new memberships, questions, everything. You guys mean a lot to us. Thank you.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
There is not, really? This to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her
Thank you.
on the side and worry about
I'm gonna
the
do
boy.
what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy
There
has.
is not, really? This to me. On the side and worry about the boys. But I have to.
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her